I've been in the habit the past couple of years having an annual reading schedule. Not all of my books, but most of them. And then I just fill in around that with other books that strike my fancy throughout the year. I haven't had the same discipline with my whiskey purchasing until this year. I'm Captain Mike. This is Whiskey and Literature. I talk about whiskey and books. Recently, I was having a conversation, if you call commenting back and forth on a YouTube video, a conversation with one of my subscribers, Glenn Beckham. And we were talking about our purchasing for 2024 and 2025. And we both decided that we needed to be more deliberate and disciplined in our purchasing this year. And Glenn, he shared 3 goals that he has for purchasing this year. And I was thinking about it, but let's go through his 3. First is to have a budget. And I've set budgets before for monthly purchasing, and I've never stuck to them, which is Captain wishes I would. And it doesn't really matter to me this year because of my situation here. I'm making a little bit less money at work, and with my housing situation, I just don't have room to put a bunch of new bottles, so it will restrict a bit my purchasing this year. But I think having a budget is great. Second of all, Glenn says that he wants to purchase more store picks. I've bought in some store picks, but it's not a big part of my whiskey purchasing because I don't have a great local liquor store nearby me. I don't have one that I can go to and consistently get good picks. So it just has not been a big part of mine. And third, Glenn said that he wants to kind of narrow and come back in and purchase more bottles from his favorite distilleries. And I think that is I think there's a reason that we purchase bottles from our favorite distilleries. It's because we like them. And I don't know what his purchasing has been the past couple of years. Like if he went broad and bought a lot of bottles from different distilleries that he didn't like, and he decided just bring it back into what he knows he likes. Because I was thinking at the same time he was saying this, that I actually want to broaden my purchasing, go and purchase less bottles from my favorite distilleries. So I did a slight more deep dive into my stats from last year, and I came up with a couple of things. First of all, I bought bottles from 30 different distilleries in 2024. 7 of those were new to me distilleries. And that sounds pretty cool until you realize that that represents 7 bottles. So that's only 7 bottles that were new to me distilleries. So I didn't really broaden out my what I'm drinking. I find that I'm buying the same bottles that I bought last year. It's just the new batch, or just going deeper into the distilleries that I know and I like. So I think I need to go, because when I go to stores and I see some bottles and I think, well, maybe next time I'll buy whatever that is from the distillery that I haven't been to before. I also realized, looking at my stats, that I purchased 49% of my total whiskey bottles were from only 4 distilleries. Almost half my bottles were from 4: Heaven Hill, High West, Jim Beam, and Buffalo Trace. But I think let's get out there and see what else is out there. So I was chatting with another friend of mine, Scott, and I've known Scott for a long time, and we're both recovering Mormons. We've been drinking whiskey and alcohol for a number of years, but not a super long time like some of you guys who've been in there for decades and decades. I literally started drinking whiskey when I was like 45 years old. But I was sharing with Scott my idea for purchasing this year and how I wanted to try some new distilleries. So we were brainstorming some new distilleries that I should give a go. And we came up with a list of 25 distilleries that I haven't had any bottles from, and I wanted to run those by you and see what you think about them, and if you have any ideas about these distilleries, or maybe, because we came up with the list, and then I did just a light amount of research from each distillery, and I've already eliminated a few from the list. And my thought initially was, I'm going to buy 1 bottle. I'm going to commit to getting a minimum of 1 bottle per month throughout this year from a new distillery. And then I thought, that's not a whole lot. I'm gonna do 2. So I need 24 distilleries that are new to me that I can try their whiskey. So as I go through the list here, and I'm gonna read what we came up with, if you have a specific bottle from them that you really enjoyed, or one that you didn't really enjoy and I need to steer away from, or if you realize there's a distillery that I should add to my list, feel free to drop it in the comments below. I'd love to know. But here's what we came up with, and besides being a distillery that's new to me, it needs to meet 3 other criteria. First of all, it needs to be available. Like if I have to go stand in line at Heaven Hill at 2:30 in the morning, then, I'm just not going to do it. I don't mind driving to a couple stores here local to me to try and find something. The hunt kind of is fun sometimes, but if I gotta wait 6 months for whatever to come out, I'm just not gonna do it for these bottles this year. So available. And also, sometimes bottles are available, but they don't meet the second criteria, which is affordable. And I know affordable means different things to different people. I got a coworker who just sent me a picture of a bottle that a friend of his purchased. It was a Double Eagle Very Rare for $3,200. Now I make okay money, but there is no way, there's no bottle of whiskey that I'm dropping at this point in my life $3,200 for. Now maybe in a decade when I'm about ready to retire, look for a retirement bottle, possibly, but right now, no way. And third of all, they have to distill at least a portion, if not all, of their own whiskey. It's okay if they source some and they blend it. That I don't have a problem. If I really had a problem with that, I wouldn't drink High West, but I do, and a lot of distilleries do source their whiskey. Or some producers, they do stuff with source whiskeys that makes it unique to them. But some, they just bottle it and then they sell it. So I'd rather find distilleries new to me that have their own whiskey, and that has eliminated a couple of these distilleries on my list. Again, any comments on these distilleries, you're welcome to make them, and let's talk about them. But here's a 25 that we came up with. We're gonna go first through the 2 bottles that I've already purchased from this list. First of all is a Bunnahabbin. So I have 2 scotches on my list. Everything else is American whiskey. And I bought the Bunnahabbin because a coworker friend of mine, he keeps gushing over this bottle, and so I decided to pick one up. It meets all the criteria. It is available. It is affordable. This was $69 for this 12-year single malt Scotch. So I'm already been into it, and a full review will be coming up on that. The second bottle that I picked up already from the list is the new Riff, and I've had my eye on these guys for a while. This is their single barrel bourbon. It's 4 years. You can see I've already been into this bottle pretty good, and this also review will be coming up very, very shortly. The second Scotch that I'm looking to pick up this year is SpringBank, and I'm interested in these guys because Ralphie, his YouTube channel, he was really talking these guys up. I don't know how available they are. They're not at my local stores right now, though they said they carry them. They just don't have any right now. So I'll give those guys a couple of months. If I don't see them, I'm gonna have to adjust SpringBank perhaps from my list. But let's go through the rest of them. Wilderness Trail. Now, I've heard great things about these guys, and so they're from Kentucky, and a lot of these I don't know much about, and Wilderness Trail is one of those. Sagamore Spirits, they're from Maryland, and I've had one of their bottles, but I never opened it, and I lost it in the storm. It got destroyed, and so it is new to me because I haven't ever had a pour of them, and I never opened the bottle. So Balcones, and I've heard they're from Texas, and I've heard good things about them. I don't know much about them, but I've heard from viewers and from a couple of friends that I need to give them a try. Now these next 2, I've actually heard things that are not so great about. It's either they like them or you don't like them, and I see people at the liquor store all the time buying these bottles, so I don't really know. And I think even The ones that I've heard negative things about, I think they deserve me to give them a fair shake, I guess, and see how they are. First of all is Jefferson's Ocean, and I've not heard great things about them. They're from Kentucky. They put the barrels on ships and send them around in the seas. I don't know. So if you have a favorite one of those, let me know. And also Dickel, another distillery that people seem to have they either love it or they hate it. I feel like there's not much in between for those guys. They're from Tennessee. If you have a favorite expression, let me know. Next up, Woodinville. Woodinville is from Washington. Just heard some good things about them, so I'm going to give them a go. Chattanooga whiskey from Tennessee. Again, heard good things, and they seem very available and affordable, so that's great. Virginia Distillery Company. I have had one of their bottles, but I never opened it, and also lost one of those in a storm. Want to pick them up and see what they're about. Number 12 is one of those I've heard good and bad things about, and that's Garrison Brothers from Texas. If you have a favorite one of those, let me know. I don't know much about them. So these next 13, there are a couple that I've already removed from the list, and let's talk about them. Number 1 is Peg Leg Porker. And I believe that they source theirs from Dickel. They don't do any of their own distilling. And so I'm not sure what distinguishes them from regular Dickel and if it's worth it picking up one of their bottles. Number 2 is Macklowe. And I believe they source, I'm not sure if this is official or really known, but it's assumed that they source from Wilderness Trail. They are setting themselves up to be kind of a premium product. I do think they have cool looking bottles, but I don't exactly know what they do to command the price that they want for their bottles. If you've had them, let me know. Number 3, I've actually removed off of this list of the new to me distilleries because I realized that Pikesville Rye is a Heaven Hill product. And of course I've had Heaven Hill, and so I am definitely gonna pick up a Pikesville Rye. I've heard great things about them, but they are not gonna be on the new to me distillery series this year. Chicken Cock, and that's, I believe, distilled by Bardstown Bourbon Company. And Bardstown Bourbon Company is, they do things so differently. They can distill so many different types of whiskey. It's not like they have only a couple different mash bills, and so if you're sourcing from Bardstown, it's just like you're sourcing Bardstown Bourbon. All their things are so different. I think it's okay to have Bardstown or Chicken Cock be a new to me distillery, even though they source from Bardstown. If you think that's wrong, all right, let me know. Next up is Templeton, and they've been on my radar. I do know they source. I do believe that they are putting out their own stuff now, and that might just be the bourbon. I feel like when I go look at their bottles on the back, it usually says it's from Indiana, so probably MGP. But I've heard great things about them, so maybe I'll look towards getting one of their bourbons. Maybe that is actually from Iowa. Next up, Rare Hare, definitely a sourced whiskey from Kentucky. Really, that's all I know. Don't know if the whiskey commands the price that they're asking. Definitely let us know. This next one I was kind of up on until I did some research on them. It's Black Maple Hill. I understand that a little while ago, they had a premium product that was out. That was a sourced Kentucky whiskey. And now the label has been revived, and they have the squattier bottles instead of the taller bottles. And it is an Oregon distillery now that they are putting out. And after reading a couple reviews, I'm not sure that $99 for their bottle or $89, whatever the MSRP is, worth it. If you've had experience with their newer products, let us know. Next 3, I know almost nothing about. I've just seen them in Westland. They're from Washington, and I believe they're an American single malt company. And I do like American single malts when they're done well, so I'm gonna give them a go. Calumet Farms, I've heard good things about their 16-year-old whiskey, and I don't know about their other expressions. Next up, I was I've heard great things about Old Elk. They're a Colorado distillery, but they also source quite a bit of their whiskey. And I feel like when I was looking in the back of their bottles at the store the other day, everyone has said from Indiana, from Indiana, from Indiana. So I don't know how much of their stuff is their own stuff versus sourced whiskeys from MGP. So I don't want just these new to me distilleries just all be a bunch of MGP distilleries that are maybe doing a little something with the whiskey, but maybe there's some old elk that I need to look at that's not distilled by MGP. The next two know nothing about Hard Truth. They're from Nashville, Indiana, I believe, and Cedar Ridge from Iowa. Those were a couple editions from Scott, and I don't think they're available locally here at Total Wine. I didn't see them on there, but maybe at one of the other kind of bigger stores, they do carry those two distilleries. If not, I might have to remove those two from the list, but if I can find them, their initial reviews online, it did look pretty good. And the last one from this list is Nashville Barrel Company. And I'm a little confused about where they get their whiskey from, if they source them from Kentucky and then they get some MGP, so maybe their ryes are MGP and then their bourbons are from Kentucky. I'm not 100% sure. I'll just need to do my due diligence when I'm looking at Nashville Barrel Company. I've heard some really good things about their products, so definitely want to give them a try this year as well. So that's the list of 25. A couple of those have been removed already from the list, but just ones that I was kind of looking at. So if you know another distillery that I need to look at, let me know. And I'll definitely do a little bit of research and see if I can add them to the list. Now, on top of doing those distilleries, I will be looking at distilleries that I still love. When these things pop up, I'm still going to buy some Jim Beam and Heaven Hill and High West and all these other distilleries that I love. Like this double from Woodford Reserve review will be coming up. But that's kind of my purchasing thoughts. I agree with my friend Scott. I agree with Glenn Beckham that we need to be a little more disciplined and kind of have a bit of a plan. Do you have a plan? Do you just kind of buy the same stuff? Are you always looking for something new, or have you brought that back in to the things you really enjoy? And maybe after a year or two of this exploration, I'm really going to narrow down what do I like. And honestly, the market's really turning on these smaller distilleries right now. There's a lot of turmoil in the whole bourbon world. We have distilleries that are folding. A lot of guys are in trouble. So it might be a completely different market in a year from now than it is right now. So we'll see how it is. Guys, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. If you have any comments, feel free to drop them below. If you've enjoyed the video, like it. It's free. Subscribe to see more of my content. But for now, my friends, you know what to do. I hope you're reading something good, drinking something great, and wear that damn hat. Cheers.